Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here, Smart Business Moves. We've got a special guest with us today, David Liu. Hello, David.
Hello. How are you guys?
We're good. Thanks.
Awesome. Here on a Monday afternoon. David resides in California and owns a number of different cleaning businesses, house cleaning businesses, and has a really interesting story and background in terms of how he got into the industry and kind of a unique strategy. And this is going to be a good informative discussion. You're going to hear some things that you've never heard before on Smart Business Moves. It's going to be useful to you. Liz, how are you today?
I'm good, Tom. How are you doing? Did you have a good weekend?
I'm doing awesome. It's you know how the weather normally is in Charleston, like hot and humid? Well, we've had this hurricane like off the coast and everything's gotten really cool. Like you wake up in the morning, the temperatures were in the 50s this morning.
Ooh, wow.
And the tides are really high. Like half my backyard is flooded, but it goes in and out, every 6 hours or so. And the high tides are really high, but the weather's cool, so it's all good. We love it. Hey, Marlo. Hey, Debbie. Got some
Hey, guys.
jumping on here.
I got my phone up finally.
Liz, where are you right now?
I'm in Washington State.
Oh, okay.
And weather is
Nice
beautiful
up there.
here. Yeah, it is really nice up here. It's still kind of gray because of the smoke. Even we had all of this rain and it really did clear up the sky a lot. And did I say we had a lot of rain?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good. I'm like, somehow my brain thought I said we had a lot of smoke.
Well, we had a lot of smoke down here.
Yeah.
We had this big fire down here. Yeah.
You guys have so many fires down there too. And so luckily for us, your wind is blowing all your fire smoke to us. Thank you. It's so nice of you.
It has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Where are you living, David?
What was that?
Where are you living?
Right now, I'm in Santa Cruz.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys had a lot of fire, didn't you?
We did. We had a few fires about 3 weeks ago, maybe, and a lot of people had to leave town. I don't know why. I would say maybe a quarter of the cleaners that we in our organization had to leave town because they couldn't breathe.
Wow.
So, or they said they couldn't breathe. They couldn't work in this kind of condition. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Before we get too deep into our discussion today, we should probably go over our schedule for the balance of the week.
Yeah.
Hey, we got Michelle Shaw up for Tuesday. I've heard that before.
All right. So for those of you that were on last week when we tried to get Michelle, or was it the week before? I don't know. And we couldn't get her on. She's coming on Tuesday. She's confirmed. She's got her internet problems handled. Fingers crossed, y'all. So financial security for your employees. Especially now, we're all looking for ways to get our employees to be a little bit stickier. And it's taking new things to make employees sticky because their financial opportunities are so different right now. So it's one of the things that we're looking at. I'm excited about it. And then on Wednesday, we are having Amy Willard. Some of you may recognize Amy's name. She had a cleaning company, operative word, had a cleaning company here in Washington, up north a little bit from me, actually. And she decided it was time to quit. And so we're going to talk about that. What made her decide, okay, I'm done. It's finally time to go. Wait.
Are you sure?
She's in Colorado, I think.
I thought Amy was in Colorado.
She's in Colorado. Sorry, I mixed her up in my head. I was thinking Kelly Sugihara. Don't know why.
Yeah, not who's.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Kelly. I should not even have linked your name. Listen to me knocking on wood, Kelly.
Okay, so we've started our week out. We've been on for less than 4 minutes, and we're cracking.
This because the next one is actually also a mistake. Our secret guest on Thursday is not talking about financial security. Our guest on Thursday is overcoming obstacles because that person, we had to bump her from last week. And so she will be on there. We're just messing with you guys. That's all. This is a game. We're just playing right here.
Yeah.
So,
Not that that's a big deal, but there's a typo in private equity, but
I know. Talking one private equity.
that's a new industry.
So much grief about that last week, David. We were hoping that you're going to define private equity for us.
I fixed that when I was at the office, but I'm not at the office. I'm at home. Never mind. It's okay.
It's okay.
I really love that David had to point it out for you again, Tom. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty.
You made my day right there.
There's no end in there at all either. I mean, that's
Got a whole extra NI in there. It's very nice. And not just one extra letter, but two. But I kind of like it. I feel like that has something to do with horses, though, right? Equinety.
Feels like it, like equine, right?
Equine,
Yeah.
right?
investor funds and horses, horse tracks. Yeah.
So, David, tell us about your horse experience. We'd love to hear.
You have a hint for on the spot on Thursday, or?
No, I gave so many hints last week. If you don't remember, I mean, I actually even gave you this person's initials, and I told you her husband's name. Okay, let me see. So for anybody that wasn't on last week, I will tell you again that, how about this one? One of the obstacles that she had to overcome was her daughter had cancer. So that is was a big hurdle. Oh, you know what? She also went through some severe flooding. I don't think I did share that last week. So there's a brand new clue. One of the other obstacles she went through was severe flooding. All right.
So, David, thank you for joining us today. It's been a while. Got to meet David through Cleaning Business Builders and foundations, and we spent a week together, locked up in a beachfront property. And David has an awesome background in terms of professional experience he had before he even got into the house cleaning business, and interesting business model too. I guess just to get started, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and life before the cleaning industry?
Sure. So before cleaning, so I got my start in computers. I went to undergrad for information systems, which is like a wimpy version of computer science. And then out of undergrad, I went to work for a healthcare IT company, and then moved to LA, then went into consulting, doing healthcare stuff. And I was in that industry for about 5 to 7 years before I got really burnt out. I was working 80 to sometimes 100 hours a week, and I was really living in a hotel in New York and Connecticut for the most part of the week, and I was home in San Francisco or LA on a Saturday, and Sunday I had to leave again. So I did that for at least 2 to 3 years, and I got really burnt out. And I remember I told my cousin, I was like, hey, let's go. And I'm really scared of heights, so I told her let's go skydiving. And I want to do something. I want to do something different. I wanted to get out of that routine. And after that, I felt like, okay, this it's time. I got to do something different. I'm really miserable. So I told the company I needed a year off. And then I went to business school. I applied to and went to a business school in France. And my goal at the time was to move and to a different country and live somewhere totally different and do something totally different. Not in consulting, nothing corporate, just like maybe a startup of some kind. And I thought maybe in business school I could meet somebody that was interesting, that has some ideas I could partner with. And anyway, I went to business school, and then towards the end of business school, I thought I would move to London, raise some money, do a startup of some kind. And I started talking to investors in UK, and they said, look, if you want to raise money, especially for like a small, like for an entrepreneur, first time investment fund, you ought to talk to people you already know. It's a lot easier to raise money that way. So I moved back to the US. I went back to LA, and I started thinking of different things I could do, and went to different investors, and I had, these investors, saying, look, you got some good backgrounds in consulting business and all this stuff. Maybe we could fund you to go out and look for a business or a few businesses to buy, and we're willing to back you. So I raised some money back in 2014, and we set up an investment fund based out of LA, and so that went on for about 3 years. We're just looking for different types of companies to buy. And the whole idea was that they would fund us to keep the lights on and do the search. And then once we find a business, we would buy the whole company and then take over, run it and grow it, and then ideally keep it for forever. And then, sell it when it's a good price. Anyway, long story short, the fund eventually had to wind down because we went through a couple of deals, but nothing closed. And then I was looking for the next thing to do, and honestly had no idea what I was going to do. I was back to square one, and I went on vacation. I was telling you guys, in Bali, and I was there for about a week when one of the business brokers reached out and said, look, I've got a really good small company that's been around for 40 years. It's got, great customer base, recurring revenue, good growth, good employees, and this is a really easy business to run. You don't need to have any cleaning experience. It's a cleaning company. You don't need to have any cleaning experience. You could run the business out of LA if you're home. You could be on vacation. It's a really good business. You ought to take a look at it. So I was like, I looked at the financials, and it looked really good. And I didn't know anything about. So this company was based in Santa Cruz, and I'd never been to Santa Cruz, and I didn't know anything about cleaning or residential cleaning. But the numbers look good, so I said, okay, let's do it. And it was a small enough business that really didn't feel like a big risk. So I think this was May when he reached out. In July, closed the deal, and 2 weeks into the business, that's when I realized this is a really tough business to run. Anything less than I think anything less than maybe, depending on the business, like anything less than 3 million, or less than $1 million can be really tough to run. And this was like somewhere between $500,000 to $1 million at the time. And, I found myself having to do a lot of stuff. And whenever somebody couldn't come to work, or for some reason didn't want to work, I had to fill in. And I didn't know anything about cleaning. I didn't know what a microfiber was, or any of the products, and I literally had to learn on the spot, and I really hated it. But I was enjoying it. I was like, this is what entrepreneurship is all about, right? Like
yeah.
Were you thinking about spending time in a hotel room in New York and Connecticut, wondering what was so bad?
Yeah, I was. My friends were all laughing at me. They're like, I told you, this is not easy, and you definitely, and so I actually took some pictures and sent it to my friends and showed them that I was cleaning toilets, and it was really funny. They were like, "Oh my God, this guy's crazy." And so it was a month after I purchased the first one that I decided I needed to buy another one, because this was too small, because I had to do a lot of this stuff myself and didn't have enough bench strength to help me with some of the management stuff. So I bought another company locally, and I merged the staff, and then that's when we had some scale. That's when I was able to hire people to help me run the day-to-day, and I could focus on other things. And so it got a little easier. But the one thing that was really nagging at me was the management part of the business. Like I never felt quite comfortable with, and Liz and I had a lot of conversation about people management and culture and all that stuff. And that was the one thing that I was really never that good with. And so I struggled with that. And I just thought, if I just buy another one and make it even bigger, I could have people to do it for me. I don't have to deal with the employees. So that really was the idea. And I went out looking for a third company to buy. And that's when I found this agency business in San Diego. And I thought, well, if it's big enough, you can have someone virtual, taking care of both parts of the state and helping me run the business, the financials, the employees. And then it was maybe about 2 weeks into doing the deal, the due diligence, that I found out this wasn't a cleaning company. This was an agency business, which is totally different from what a cleaning company is.
David, could you explain a little bit about the difference for the people that don't really know?
So an agency business, essentially, you're like a broker, and you make a percentage of what the cleaner makes. So think about Uber, right? Uber takes 20%, 30%, whatever it is, from what the the drivers make. And they can't tell the drivers, they can't tell the drivers or the cleaners what to do. You can't give them supplies, equipment, cars. If they break something to customers, you can't pay for it. You just can't. You can't go on site and do what do you call it? Like a
quality assurance check.
Yeah, that, or what is it when you go on site to do a quote, on-site quote? Is that what it's called? Yeah.
No obligation consultation.
Yeah, you can't do any of that. You can only do it over the phone. That's just like how you would order a car via Uber app. It's the same thing. And so you have zero control. And I didn't, I was talking to the broker, and he was like, no, this is not a tough business. Look, it's a very asset light business. You just run the business from LA. It's not, and so I was like, oh yeah. So I did. I went ahead and bought that business, and then it was maybe a month later, I realized how tough that business was too, because you have zero control. You can't do anything. Like if the client doesn't want to pay because they're pissed off about the quality or whatever, the cleaner doesn't get paid, right? Like you can't pay them anything, and the cleaner gets upset. And like if they're really upset, they can go to EDD and claim that it was wage theft or something like that, even though that's not your fault, right? And then that could incur an audit and God knows what. So and then you just don't have any control. So it's not like in cleaning business, you can, I don't know, like send the person to go back and re-clean, and all you have to do is pay for their time. But in this case, if the cleaner says, no, I don't want to, there's nothing you can do. You can't tell them what supplies they should use or can't use. And now with AB 5, this new law that got passed in California, the cleaners or the housekeepers can set their own rates. So when a customer calls you and says, look, I'm looking for cleaning on Friday, do you have anybody for normal heights? And we would say, yeah, sure. We got a few people available. Their rates vary from $30 to $38 an hour. We don't know what's going to be yet. We're going to find someone available, and then we'll tell you how much it's going to be. And on top of that, when they arrive on site, if they feel like this is a tough job, they can renegotiate and say, well, this is not 30 anymore, it's 35 an hour. So just imagine how angry the customer can get when they find out it's going to be a different cost. So
how do you explain that? How do you explain that?
Well, so you have to kind of educate the clients up front. So usually what we do is when they call, we tell them on average, most of our cleaners charge, for example, 40 an hour, 35, whatever it might be. I don't know, like every location is different. The average rates are different. So San Diego might be 35, for example. So we'll say, the average rate here is 35, and it varies a little bit depending on which housekeeper you get. You just don't say the numbers, because when you start telling them it's 30 to 35 or 30 to 40,
I want 30.
They get turned off.
Yeah.
They're like, so how much is it going to be? Like, and so you tell them that, and then you tell them, look, there's a minimum of 3 hours, and that's what most housekeepers want anyway. So you can say that. And then you tell them they get paid by the hours, so actual number of hours will depend on what you and the housekeeper agree on once she sees your home. So by saying that, you make them feel like they have some control over the price, right? And 95% of the time, they don't have an issue with it. Yeah. So, but it's hard. It's hard because it just creates more confusion, but that's just the way the law is, or the way the law works here in California. So,
well, I think that the way you described it, your very first sentence was very illuminating. You get a portion of their money, not they get a portion of yours. So when you have employees, the employees get a portion of the money that I bring in. But in a referral agency, the company gets a portion of what the technician brings in. It's the opposite. I get some of their money. They don't get some of my money. It's their money that I'm part of.
Yeah. The one silver lining in one good thing about a referral agency is the cleaners do get paid much more, because they typically get anywhere from 65 to 80% of what the clients pay. And
because
so,
all the expenses are theirs.
Right, exactly. And you don't bear any risk, I mean, supposedly. And so, like, you know, when I compare my cleaning company's employees' pay to what a worker makes at a referral agency, they make double, sometimes more than double.
Yeah.
In San Jose, our cleaners make 35 to 45 an hour. That's after we take our.
After you get paid.
Yeah. So it's a lot easier to recruit people.
But they have to pay all their insurance and their taxes, and they have to buy their own chemicals and cloths and vacuum cleaners and uniforms and cars and blah blah blah, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but
some people, yeah. So if you so you know what we do is, like, in some areas where we have both models, we have the employee-based model and then the agency business. When people apply to either business, and if they're like, oh, I don't want to have to bring my own whatever or buy my own thing and do my own taxes, and then we tell them, look, we have a sister company that can take care of all of that. Why don't you apply there, and we can help you get your meeting set up, but you just won't get paid as much, right?
Right.
And then same thing for the employees. They're like, oh, this pay only 13 an hour or 15 an hour. That's way too low. And we tell them, look, you can make twice as much. Just, you know, go to Anita's, and then, but then you don't have to pay for your own blah blah blah.
Well, do you have a preference, David? Which one worked better for you?
You know, honestly, so like financially, the cleaning business is better because the margins are better. So, you know, typically you'll make about, you know, the gross margin is 50%. And then after that, you pay for your operating expenses and all of that. And maybe you'll have like 25, 15, you know, depending on, you know, how tight you run your ship. A referral agency is going to be, you know, legally, you can take more than 50% of what the client pays. But most agencies will give the worker like around 60 to 80, right? So right away, your gross margin starting off is only at the most probably about 35%. That's already lower than what you get from, you know, but then you don't have to pay workers' comp. You don't have to worry about, you know, other stuff, but it's just a lower margin to start with. And then you don't have any control. And now with the new laws, you know, you have to, like, we're having to come up with our own software to like take care of the back end stuff, because there's really no off-the-shelf software that does what we need to do. So it's not as profitable a business, but it's much more scalable.
So on the agency side, I'm assuming you send one cleaner and it's like a solo model and they're driving their own car and providing everything.
Mm-hmm.
On your house cleaning side, where you've got your own employees, from a service delivery standpoint, does it look the same, or, you know, do you do teams? Is there any difference from a service delivery standpoint?
I mean, in terms of appearance, obviously the workers are going to look much more independent. You know, they probably from the outside will look like your independent house cleaners were kind of do on their own, because they're not going to wear like uniform, obviously, right? So they don't look as professional. And in terms of quality of service, I don't know, because my cleaning company employees, most of them have been with the company for 15 plus years. I mean, I inherited a lot of the employees from before. And so, you know, the quality is good, but I can tell you this, like, because for my cleaning business, we pay for breakage, right? If something breaks, or we pay for it.
Yeah.
We don't do that for the agency, and I can tell you, and I've had the agency for only about a year and a half, maybe a little over a year and a half, and we've had only one instance of breakage. Right, this is like between North and maybe a couple more, like a few, but that's in a year and a half. That's pretty good. Whereas my cleaning company, it's like one every 2-3 weeks, probably. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe they're not that good. I don't know. Because they don't care. I mean, we're gonna pay for it. We give the client a gift card, and so they don't have to worry about anything.
So, with all these different, I mean, you've described these, like, I'm losing count, 4 different businesses at this point.
Yeah, I have the two. So I have a cleaning company that's like your traditional cleaning company. I have the agency business that is, so the 2 cleaning companies already merged into one, so that's one business now. And then an agency business in San Diego, another agency business up in Santa Cruz. And so they're basically 2 different businesses, but like under the same name, just for liability reasons. And then another company is just the software that we built for us.
I got you. So how do you spend your time?
I would say 80% of my time is spent on the agency business.
Doing what?
So I spend a lot of time. So for example, when the new law came out, AB 5, I spent a lot of time with lawyers, with the coalition, and reading the assembly bill. Actually, I had never thought that I would have to read the law when I got into this, but like we spent a lot of time doing that because you want to make sure you're doing things right.
Especially in California, because they come after you.
They do, yeah. If you fail an audit, and they do things like, for example, they will they ask for interviews with your workers, and they will ask your workers questions like, so who's your boss at in the office? And they will ask you leading questions, right? Because obviously they don't have a boss. And they'll say, oh, that's Rebecca, whoever it is. And they're like, oh, there it is. They're supervising you.
Yeah.
So it's little things like that, they look for. And if you fail an audit, it usually, depending on the size of the business, usually will cost anywhere between 50 to a couple $100,000. And so, because you're having to pay for all the workers' comp you didn't pay, all the back taxes, and on top of that, the penalties and then the interest. But if you're doing things by the book, you're supposed to do, then usually it's not an issue. Usually you'll pass the audit. You just can't think like a cleaning business owner, because if you do, then it's very easy to make mistakes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, referral agencies shouldn't have an office.
No, you can have an office. You just can't have supplies and things like that in the office. Yeah.
So you could still have a place for the person that's doing sales to sit and answer phones and that kind of stuff. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But not a place where all of the independent contractors would come and hang out. And I guess you probably could even do that if they wanted to.
Yeah, they can. You just can't. You can't store the supplies or anything like that there.
And can't require them to go there.
You can't. No, you cannot.
No.
If you tell them, hey, come and pick up your check every Tuesday at 2 p.m. right there, you just broke the law, because now you're telling them what to do when they can pick up their check. But
you can invite them to come.
Yeah, you can invite them. Yeah.
Right.
Or even tell me when you're coming a day in advance, and we'll see.
So obviously there's some efficiencies by not having, the taxes and insurance, but it sounds like you burn a lot of calories just trying to make sure that you're not doing anything that gives the hint that you might be an employer. I mean, there's a cost associated with that too, right?
Yeah, and I've been asked this question before: which business do you prefer? And right now, if I would just look at the numbers, I definitely think that cleaning business is easier. You don't have to worry as much, and it's more profitable. It's just feels like a much easier, better business to run. But I'm looking, 5 years out, and for example, I bought the San Diego business in end of 2018, October 2018, and then we were able to launch 3 more locations, very quickly, like within a year, because you don't really need a whole lot besides having a small office, and then launch your website and start doing advertising, and then you sign on people, and there's no training, there's nothing involved. You just have to make sure you're really good with vetting for good cleaners. And so whereas in a cleaning business, of course you have to be good at recruiting, but you have to be really good with operations, training, and all of that to make sure you maintain quality and all that. You don't need that. You just have to make sure it's the other way around. You have to make sure that you are a really good gatekeeper, and really good at matching clients with workers. And if you can do those 2 things, then it's not so tough a business to run. But the legal stuff, that takes time. But once you reach enough scale, even though it's a smaller margin, it's I don't know, it's worth it. So, like, for example, you just need, if you have good back end systems, you only need 1 person to run an $850 to $1 million business. Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas a cleaning company, it's hard. Like, I mean, you can, but it's a little harder, right?
Right.
You want to run like a $1 million business.
And it's going to be hard.
It's hard right? Yeah.
Really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
scalability is better, but the beginning stage is a little harder for a referral agency.
yeah, it was interesting while you were talking, because you sort of flip-flopped on yourself a little bit. You were like, I kind of prefer the residential cleaning company because it's easier in this way. And then about a minute later, you said, and the agency is easier because you don't have to worry about the training and the operations, et cetera. So it was like, they're both easier in their own ways.
Right. There's pros and cons to each. Yeah. Then that's the reason why I haven't stopped, running owning the cleaning company, because I don't know which way California is going to go. And so I want to make sure I have both. And to be quite honest, like the cleaning business is generating cash. And so, after 6 months after I bought the business, I made my money back. And so, right now it just makes sense to keep it going, just in case for some reason the agency doesn't work out. I have this, but yeah.
Under the current laws, though, you're thinking that the agency has more upside in terms of scalability, that your margins might be less, but you can grow a larger business on the agency side.
Yeah, you can grow a large cleaning business as well, but the speed to scale is faster for an agency than for a cleaning company.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I have people, for example,
doing all of the things all at the same time that you wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
In terms of recurring jobs versus one time, what does that look like on the agency side?
So that was my first concern. I mean, the one thing I look at in any investment, the first thing I look at is recurring revenue, and if it's anything less than 80%, it's not worth it. And so with the agency business, interestingly enough, it's mostly recurring, but you have to do a couple of things to make sure. So the office people have to be engaged with the client, so they know there's a voice, there are people at this agency that they can reach out to, and who can help them when something goes wrong, like they need to schedule something like that. You want to meet with or be engaged with the workers, so it's not just an agency to work with. There's a face to the name, and they're less likely to steal your clients, I guess.
Right.
But for the most part, it's been pretty recurring. I think, we haven't really had, and we spend a lot of time with the lawyers on writing stuff to warn clients and to warn workers about going direct to each other. And we do offer people to go direct. We just tell them, look, all you got to do is pay us $5,000, $3,500 each, or $5,000 if you don't tell us in advance. So it's been okay. Yeah, it's been
So
okay.
you tell them that up front. I can see how that would work better, much better, to tell them that in the very beginning instead of waiting until you have somebody that you think you're in a situation. It's like it's too late then. You got to tell them.
So the cleaner and the client both pay you if they work together?
Well, so you can ask both parties to pay, but most likely it's going to be the client who pays, if anything. But we haven't had that happen because it's so expensive. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, I mean, we had same thing at the agency. We have workers who've been with us for over 20 years. Clients who've been with us for over 10 years. So,
Yeah.
it's definitely not as sticky as a cleaning business, but it's close enough. That it's.
We've got a few questions here, David. Leslie, who I think is in Northern California, is asking, I guess, making the statement that but they aren't making great money due to the expenses. I guess talking about your cleaners on the agency side, and you have no control over training. I don't know. I think you said earlier that they make pretty good money. I mean,
I'll give you an example. So in San Jose, a regular clean. I mean, I know this morning we just booked a job for a lady in San Jose. She's charging this client $47 an hour, and she makes 75%. And so that's what she makes on a regular clean. And in San Diego, I think our lowest price is 30, and the lowest percentage is 65% down there. So I mean, it's not a lot, but it's not bad. And then when you compare to a cleaning employee, now some people do make 20 an hour, but most of them make like 15 an hour. So.
Well,
plus if you're an independent contractor, you get to expense all your stuff, your gas, your supplies, and everything. So financially, it is better. And hands down, it is better. You do make more money.
Well, they have way fewer expenses than a company has.
I have another question, but I'm looking at her Facebook picture. She must have stayed up late celebrating her birthday.
She has these little mask things that she can put.
God.
Because she's having some dental work done. And so she has these weird little mask things that she can hold up. Okay. Oh, that's a good question.
All the correct coverage.
Do you have to insure? Go ahead.
Yes, that's a good question. So, before year 2000, you didn't have to ensure that they have. You didn't have to ensure that they have these things. But now with the new law in California, they're asking us to certify or to ask the workers specifically for these things. So now we're only taking people who have business licenses.
Were your workers able to draw unemployment if they were shut down for COVID?
Well, so with the CARES Act, they eventually made it so that in California, they made it so that contractors could get unemployment. But we had people trying to get unemployment before that was the thing, and we got letters from EDD, and we immediately sent out letters to EDD and said you can't give them any benefits, or not that you can't, but they don't qualify for it.
Right.
And so we wrote in the letter where are the civil codes and laws that govern what we do and why they aren't supposed to get unemployment insurance. So technically they aren't supposed to qualify for any of that stuff. But COVID is kind of a different animal. So
So I'll go ahead, Tom.
Well, if you had a related question, this was just.
I'll get to it when we get to Leslie's questions. So.
Okay. Deborah, just like to know about, can you rent cleaners a space to store their equipment?
Can I rent the cleaner a space to store the equipment? I mean, technically you can.
Yeah.
You can, but the thing is you want to do as much as you can to avoid any confusion. Like you don't, when EDD comes to audit, you want to make sure that it's very clear to them and it's very clear to the workers when they do their interview that they really are autonomous. So, I mean, technically you can do these things, but you want to do as much as you can to avoid confusion.
And I see how they could do some leading questions. Like, I know when people are getting paid percentage, for example, a lot of times people will say you don't get paid for drive time. That's not true. You absolutely get paid for your drive time. It's just how the money is figured out is different.
Yeah.
But it's easy for the employees to say, give the wrong answer. So, and that's something that's been explained so many times. So I can really see how it could be sticky if they have if you've rented them a spot, now they have all of their equipment there. And then the auditor asks them something like, so do you have to go to an office to pick up your supplies? Are you required to go there? They're like, well, yeah, how else would I get my supplies? That's where I leave them.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Where the answer just, So I can see how it's very sticky, very, very sticky. Yeah.
Sounds like Karen's surprised you're able to recruit contractors in San Diego, or maybe it's just a question. I don't know.
Yeah, we have been. We continue to. I mean, you just through Indeed, Craigslist, and all kinds of platforms. And I mean, we spend far more money on recruiting than we do marketing to clients. That's true. But we definitely can find contractors.
I had heard, so Leslie's got a few questions here. And one of the things that I had heard is that workers' comp is so high in California. We've heard that for years, how incredibly expensive the workers' compensation insurance is in California, that it makes more sense. You can make more money by having a referral agency. And for a while there, remember, Tom, it seemed like all of the cleaning companies were transitioning to referral agencies.
Yeah, we're reading horror stories of 50 cents on the dollar was going to workers' comp.
Yeah. So
it can't be that high. Ours was when I started. It was we had a really bad insurance agent, but ours was 35 at the time when I started, 36, and then went down to 20, 26, something like that. Now we're like 22, 23. That's still, a quarter of every dollar you make.
Yeah.
That's considered pretty good already. So.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they don't make that in profit. So it's like, there went all my money right there.
Yeah, but if you're big enough, you get a discount, right? So it's not, like of a certain size. The insurance company will say, well, we'll give you a credit or something like that, and it can go down to 18 or lower than that. So
do they allow pooling? Like up here in Washington, we can pool and then get a much better rate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Leslie was at 47. She's gotten it down to 7.
Wow,
that's awesome.
7%. I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Okay, I remember your name.
Yeah. We can make sure you know her. She's very well known in the industry. She's been around a long time. So Leslie's just like, gosh, not understanding how let's see, how they make money. If they have to pay their self-employment taxes, insurance, she doesn't see how I think she's asking how they make the money. I don't get benefits like unemployment, just secures. She doesn't see how it can work. She's got like a few different posts. It starts up 3 up, Tom.
Yeah, same thread. It's just the economics. If I'm an independent contractor, how am I making any money at this?
Yeah.
Well, they make enough that, I mean, the numbers don't lie. So, for a given ad that I put out there on the same platform within the same time period, I get probably 10 times as many applicants than I do, employees. And then of the people that do come through interviews, almost 90% of the people do sign up and do want to work. Whereas the employees come in and they may come in, they may not come in. They come in, probably, I don't know, 10% will sign up. So.
Yeah. I can see how they just don't have as many expenses either. There's the overhead is just so much less. as independent contractors. A company, the overhead is just so much larger. I can see why.
Is she talking about the economics for the contractors or for the referral agencies?
I think so.
I think it was for contractors is how I'm reading it.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to pay for payroll. They don't have to pay any taxes. They don't pay into Social Security. You don't pay into Medicare. Obviously there are no payroll taxes, and what else do they pay?
Well, they're not going to pay like company cars because they already have a car. They're not going to pay for like cell phones like you would have to pay for in a company maybe because they have their own cell phone already. They don't have to pay for an office.
Yeah, but you can deduct those things, right? So like you can't, when you think about people who would want to work with a referral agency versus people who want to work for a cleaning company, there are complete different types of people. I've actually approached all the employees of the cleaning company and say, look, do you guys want to make double what you make now without taxes taken out of your check, your settlement check? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, why don't you guys apply to Anita's and leave the cleaning company? Because I was actually at one point I was thinking about shutting down the cleaning company. Nobody signed up. And
they don't want that additional work.
No,
and
they don't.
Additional expenses.
You know what they said? You know what they said the reason was?
What?
I don't want to do the paperwork.
It's too hard.
Paperwork, the taxes. Yeah. Oh, okay. And then they don't want the unpredictability because for some reason they feel like if they were working for themselves as an independent contractor, they can't be guaranteed 40, 35 or 30 to 40 hours a week, whatever. But there's no guarantee you're going to get 30 to 40 hours a week with a cleaning company. So, I mean, it's just totally different types of people. They look for different things.
Yeah, totally different.
They perceive more security as an employee.
Yeah. If you really do want to work for yourself, you really believe you're good, you're responsible, you can build a business, you're going to start your own company or you want to work with an agency to help you get clients.
Right. Not going to make it work for somebody else.
What year was it, David, that you purchased your first cleaning company?
2017.
2017. And you mentioned that you were working with some investors who were, willing to finance an acquisition and had a pool of money put together. So, I mean, did you use any of that, or you?
No, these companies are so small. I did have a couple of investors who reached out from my previous fund, and they said, look, if you're looking for a micro roll up, so basically a roll up for this type of business, the small businesses. We can fund you, but they're not going to fund anything that's less than a couple $100,000 because that's not really worth their time.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of people out there now who, just got their MBA, and I think the term is search funds, where was yours like? Would you define what you had going as a search fund?
Yeah, it was a search fund. It was a search fund, and so it was very much a traditional type of search fund. Where you reach out to your alumni or people who are in private equity already. So we had I think 6 or 7 institutional investors who were already mid-market private equity firms. That had $500 million in assets under management, that type of size, and they would fund these small funds like ours to basically help them do deal sourcing because they don't have to. I mean, when you look at a small business like that's doing 5 million or 10 million or 20 million sales, which is tiny to them, the return on investment is really good when you can grow it from let's say 10 million to 50 million versus growing a company from 100 million to like 200 million. So, and if they have a bunch of people, a bunch of these search funds doing that kind of deal sourcing for them, they don't have to, we just package the deal and we show it to them and we try to, get them to pony up more money for the acquisition, and they'll go, okay, yeah, that looks good. No, no, that's not what I want to do. And if they give you the money and they know that you're going to take care of the business, you'll grow it. And so it's a pretty good investment for most people.
So they're basically, you get to be the CEO of the company, but they're buying the company. Do you, as the CEO in the typical search fund deal, does the CEO get to own part of the business?
Yeah. So the way it works is you have to reach. So you earn your equity in the business through 3 tranches or 3 phases. The first tranche of equity you get is when you successfully close a deal. So you negotiated with the seller, you figure out the price, and everybody's happy. Now you just close the deal, and that is hard. And so if you're able to do that, you get the first. And it depends on what you negotiate with investors. You get like the first 7.5% of the equity in the business, and then once you've acquired the business, then the next phase is over the next 4 years. Can you meet the performance goals of the business every year? If you do meet those goals over the next 3 or 4 years, then that's another tranche of equity you get, which is another maybe 7.5%. And then when time comes to sell the business, whether it's 5 years from now or 20 years from now, we have this term called IRR, internal rate of return, which is basically another metric to measure like how good your return is. So if you reach, let's say 35%, which is the magic number that most of these investors look for. If you reach 35% when you sell the business, then that's another 7.5% equity in the business, for example. Then you'll walk away from this business after the sale a pretty significant chunk of the business. So that's how you earn your equity. Otherwise, you're really just doing sweat. It's really just sweat and blood in the beginning, and in the hopes that you find the right business, in the hopes that you close the deal, and then after you close the deal, in the hopes that you do well, as a CEO running the business, and then eventually, hoping that you'll find the right buyer to pay good money for your company.
I talk to a lot of people, and this is anecdotal, but it seems like there's more people now than ever who fall into the search fund category, just people who are backed by somebody else's money to do a search fund deal, looking to buy residential cleaning companies.
They are? Search funds?
Yes.
Okay, that's surprising.
I can share some names with you, just if offline. But there's a lot of, we get a lot of inquiries, and I'm just wondering, is that because residential cleaning companies are particularly attractive for some reason, or is that because there's no other businesses out there left to buy?
I can tell you. Let me start with what search funds look for. Most search funds will look for, before revenue and before all this stuff, they look for 3 things. They look for a business that has recurring revenue. Okay. They look for a business that has strong cash flow. So, if you don't have anything more than 15% EBITDA margin, you're not interesting. Ideally, 25% above is interesting. So those 2 things. And the third is the business has to be proven. So that usually means it's been around for, like 20, ideally more than that, 20 years or more. So we have those 3 things, and you have a seller who is typically, this is when I went out to raise money, you hear the things that we would talk about are these 3 things, and then a willing seller, someone who is older, is looking to exit, doesn't have someone to pass the business down to, and is willing to sell the business, somewhat at a discount because they see that the searcher or the buyer is going to take care of the business and take it to the next level, and so those 4 things, typically are like the things that you look for as a searcher. Nowadays, when I started, the search fund industry was really just starting to take off, and I'm sure now it's a lot bigger than it was before. Back then, when you were raising money, you were raising from high net worth individuals, like people. Now they have institutions like firms that are actually set up just to fund search funds, and that's how institutionalized the whole industry has become. And now I don't know why they'd be looking at cleaning companies, but I do know when I was searching, I did look at cleaning companies, but only commercial. Not necessarily because commercials were more profitable, because they aren't as profitable as a residential business, but they're generally bigger, and they're generally more recurring.
Right.
And
Under
so,
contract. Under contract.
Under contract. Even if they aren't, they usually are more recurring, I think. Yeah. So, and most search funds look for businesses that are, at least $10 million and above. And so if you meet that criteria, typically, you'll pique their interest.
I don't. Let's see.
But now you have search funds. I know when I was searching, there were a couple of search funds out there that have sort of mutated, right? Because the industry continues to evolve, and you have search funds that have decided to do kind of what I'm doing now, which is, my goal isn't to buy one business. My goal is to buy a bunch of small businesses and roll up into a bigger company, and a million, another million business, another $1 million business, and then after 10 acquisitions, that become a $10 million business, and then now I sell it to a even larger company. Right. at a good multiple, because now I'm much larger as a company. So, and that was my original goal, actually. But I did all with my own money, because I basically leveraged a lot, and I was able to leverage for all the transactions. But then by the third acquisition, which was the agency business, I was like, but there's no way I can merge them together. They're a totally different business. So.
Are you leveraging primarily with seller financing?
Seller, usually, for example, when I do a deal, I will require the seller to put down somewhere between 15 to 20% of the purchase price, and then if it's 20%, the remaining 60% or something like that will be financed by the bank, and then I basically, or 60 to 70. And I usually will put down somewhere between 10 to 15% of the purchase price. So, if I was trying to buy $100,000 business, I would only put 10 grand, for example.
When you say bank, you're talking traditional banking relationships, your Bank of America?
No, these are smaller regional banks, that do a lot of small deals. And I basically, what I did was so the banks that I was dealing with were mid-market banks that did acquisitions, but the deals I was doing, these cleaning companies were too small. They weren't interested. So I had to make a lot of cold calls to banks, and basically say, look, here's the deal I'm working on. Here's my background. I don't know cleaning, but it's a really easy business to run. You don't have to worry. It's going to do well. I can pay you back for sure. Just give me, 90% or 80% of the purchase price, and you'll make your money back. So, I mean, they bought it, so.
Yeah.
Well, see, David, we said an hour goes by really fast. I think we just.
Yeah, there we went.
Kelly says that she's operating in 3 different states as a referral agency. So wow. There's folks out there doing it.
I think she's responding to Denise, who asked if there are referral companies throughout the United States or mostly in CA. And so, yeah, they're
okay. Yeah, we have. I know referral agencies are in multiple states. I just don't want to open up referral agencies in areas that I can't get to within less than an hour to an hour and a half. So that's really a preference.
Well, it really is nice if they're all in one state, because the laws are all the same. And that's a real benefit. We really recognize that when we are opening branches in different states. It's like, a lot of different little tricky laws in different states.
How do you do that? Well, I don't know about that state.
Yeah.
Another, you're on the clock again with your attorney. David, thank you.
Yeah,
this was
thank you guys.
awesome.
This was fun.
Helpful and fun.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No,
Leslie's saying that California has the most incentive to start this model. Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got your workers' comp down to 7%. It's not nowhere near as much of an incentive as it used to be, Leslie, but yeah, still I agree.
If you haven't subscribed to Cleaning Business a Day, it's really easy. You go to cleaningbusinessaday.com, email first name, last name. I'll drop us into the link here for our resources. Put it in our chat.
I'm a subscriber.
Are you a subscriber, David?
So, yeah.
Okay. So you get your newsletters and updates and breaking news
Directly to spam, David.
Yeah.
I used to go into my inbox, but I don't see it anymore.
I don't see it anymore either. I don't know where mine went.
Go into your junk and whitelist us.
Okay.
You need to be reading these. Who do we have tomorrow, Liz?
Michelle. We have Michelle tomorrow.
Yes, Michelle. Equity. Did I have that spelled right now, David?
Yeah.
Oh, that looks good.
Right.
That's
Change
how-
the bottom one too, Tom, as long as you're in there.
yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
What is it again?
Overcoming obstacles.
Gee whiz.
You just are doing that for fun. I know, Tom. Uh-oh.
Almost.
That's
Thank
good.
God for a spell checker.
Okay, guys. David, thanks again. We'll keep you on speed dial. We may have to do this again. Okay.
All right. Thank you guys.
Great info. Thanks, you guys.
Okay. Bye.
Okay.
Guys.
Bye-bye.
Okay.